Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Denzel Curry album, Nostalgia 64. Denzel Curry is a young southern rapper from South Florida who has ties to the Raider Clan, which is this southern hip-hop outfit affiliated with MC Space Ghost Perp, and him together with the Raider Clan are largely responsible for this resurgence of dark, atmospheric, Memphis-inspired hip-hop. Classic artists like 3-6 Mafia, Juicy J, Koopsta, whose music comes out in a big way in the music of Little Ugly Man, Space Ghost Perp, Halik Mal, and Denzel too. And Denzel's take on this very dark, bleak Memphis rap style combines elements of cloud raps and very atmospheric effects at times in his music, as well as modern and hard-hitting trap rap, some chopped and screwed stuff too. And there's a little bit of early horrorcore eeriness kind of lurching in some of the songs here too. Nostalgia is not Denzel's first project, but he seems to be gaining more attention than ever off of this. And while at first I didn't really see the appeal of this thing, the more I listened to it, the more that I saw that there was a lot of potential in what Denzel is doing. At its most surface level, if you're not really digging deep into this album, Denzel essentially sounds like another young rapper whose voice is not really that distinct. He just kind of sounds like an aggressive young dude. His instrumentals are very trap inspired. Some of the hooks on this thing are really grimy and in your face and loud, kind of like as if they were Waka Flocka Flame inspired. However, I think what's going on this LP runs a lot deeper than that. For one, this is a pretty dark record, and the instrumentals are incredibly crushing with the bass, like the song Dark and Violent, whose instrumental is very, very spacious and chilling. And even the song Zone 3, one of the more hard-hitting tracks on this LP, even has a bit of darkness there in the instrumental coming from the sort of repetitive synths. And Denzel is pretty consistent throughout this LP until the very, very end with this very morbid and tortured vibe. Now, though I did like the beats on this album a lot, they really fit with Denzel's aggressive style when he's trying to go hard. They fit with his eerier style when he's trying to tell a bit more of a story, just get really dark, get kind of in your head with something kind of sickening. They really fit the bill. But where I really ended up being the most impressed with this LP was with Denzel's flow and his lyrics. Now, don't get me wrong, there are moments on this LP, kind of like the song Widescreen, where Denzel sort of sounds like just any young rapper who has a pretty decent flow. But there are moments on this album where it really feels like he has something sort of significant to say, like on the track Zone 3, which essentially is a bit of a grim painting of where he comes from in South Florida. And being someone from that area, there are some Trayvon Martin references in this track, as well as other moments on this project. But what feels even more cutting is the next song on here, Parents, where essentially Denzel is dealing with a few people who he's describing in some verses who are sort of the result of crappy parenting. We have a girl who's stripping and getting naked and letting guys basically take advantage of her physically just to pay the bills. We have another person who essentially overspends money all the time, doesn't know what to do with his life, still lives with his mother. And on the song Dark and Violent, we kind of have this character who sees no other options in front of him other than committing crime to kind of get ahead and make a way for himself in the world. And there's a beat change up, a significant beat change up in the second half of the song, where essentially we're introduced to the character in the first half of this track, and then we're sort of let into this first-person view story of him pulling off a bank heist. And another thing that kind of hit me on this album is sort of Denzel's willingness to sort of mix these dark, aggressive themes with things that for him are kind of either fun or nostalgic. I mean, obviously in the title we have a reference to Nintendo 64. We have Rob Banks on one track sort of name-checking Charmander. On the song Mystical Virus, we have the main character of this track screaming out in pain, in fear, like he's Sindel, the character from the Mortal Kombat video game series. And even on Zone 3, Denzel paints this picture of a drive-by not killing somebody who it was meant to kill, and then the guys involved in the drive-by getting out and cutting his hands off, leaving him with nubs like the Powerpuff Girls. You have some more hard-hitting tracks on here like Threats and Talk That Shit, maybe the most dumb, angry, just in-your-face tracks on this entire LP, but still very catchy, really energetic, and just kind of wrap me up in just how mad they are. Really where this album gets kind of shaky for me is The second track, we have a bit of a love song on here with Like Me, where Denzel, lyrically, it's not bad. I feel like his flow is a little less smooth than it is at times, and he sings a little bit toward the end of the track, which doesn't turn out too well in his favor. It's a little confusing to me, considering that he already has a good singer guesting on this track who performs really well on the hook. But this isn't even really the worst moment on the album for me. Still here, I think Denzel maintains his personality. I think it's tracks like Ben's where, in my opinion, because of his flow, the lyrical content on this track, which is honestly a little shallow, and his voice as well, which I think is still kind of yet to come into its own, he sounds like just any young rapper who's just swagging and kind of rapping about drugs and material things. And the song Denny Cascade, this track would be purely generic and forgettable too if it weren't for the really epic and dark beat change up in the second half. And the closer on here, a bit of cloud rap with some awful singing and some lyrics that really just kind of breezed by me. It was just a very uneventful closer. Still, toward the end of this LP, I admired Denzel's attempts at kind of breaking up the vibe of this album, trying to deliver something a little different toward the end. But I feel like as the album changes up its style and just its emotional feel, Denzel drifts away from what his strong points are. I feel like he could either consistently deliver these dark tracks, which I think he does very well, or find a way to be a little more captivating or unique on these more lighthearted and maybe just less serious songs. Still, not a bad project and something that I feel is going to keep me in tune with whatever this dude is doing next. I'm feeling a light to decent 7 transition. But if you've given this LP a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Denzel Curry, forever.